What's going on, guys? It's Honda Baron, and in today's video I want to talk about new versus used motorcycles. Spring is coming. It's just around the corner here in southern Ontario. It's warming up. Well, today is I think like 1 degree Celsius, so kind of cold. I got the gloves on, I got the heated grips going, and I thought I'd make a video for you guys talking about new versus used motorcycles. I know coming to the spring season, a lot of you guys are going to be buying a new bike or a used bike, and I want to talk about the pros and cons of each and make it easier for you to decide whether or not a new motorcycle or a used motorcycle is the right choice for you. Bit of a disclaimer, I've only ever bought used motorcycles, never bought a new one. I probably will in the future, but we'll get into that in this video, so let's hop on the bike and let's ride. Got the notes for you guys coming through with the info. Let's get these grips up to 75%. It's a bit cold. It's a bit windy. It's not the most pleasant day to be out motovlogging, but duty calls, alright? And let's hope I can make it up here without goosing the bike. Alright, so it's spring just around the corner. There's a bunch of you guys that will be looking for a motorcycle, whether it's new or used. And today I want to talk about just the pros and cons of each. You know, buying a used motorcycle, what the pros and cons of used bikes are, and new motorcycles, what the pros and cons of new motorcycles are. Now, personally, I've only ever bought used motorcycles. I've only ever bought used cars. For me personally, I think that's the best value. It's the easiest for me to do. I don't want to deal with the dealership. I don't want to deal with payments. I don't want to deal with any of that. So I guess we'll get started with used motorcycles. So the biggest pro of buying a used motorcycle is money. So you're going to save a lot of money buying a used bike. You have a lot more options available. You know, when you're looking at new bikes, you'll be looking at the newest years, right? So you'll be right now it'll be say a 2020 or 2019 motorcycle from the dealer. But with used bikes, you'll be looking at any year, and you'll definitely be getting a lot more value for the money when you're buying a used motorcycle. In my local market, there are tons of used bikes available under 5,000, under 3,000. You can get pretty nice bikes for under 3,000 bucks here. Up to 10,000, you're looking at just about any used bike that's more than say 2 or 3 years old. I've even seen like 2 or 3 year old Africa twins going for under 10,000. So it just depends on what you're looking for when it comes to a used bike, but you can't argue against the fact that you are going to get a little bit more for your money, and you can save money buying a used motorcycle. And then another benefit, another pro to that is the money that you save on a used bike. What's going on here? The money you saved on a used bike, you could spend on upgrades, on accessories, on new parts. You can spend it on maintenance. You can use that money for insurance. So you're saving money up front on the purchase costs, and you're also saving money in the long run with all of the other costs of motorcycle ownership. And again, that's the biggest pro. The biggest pro, I think, when you're buying a used motorcycle is the cost, the money you save, and the value that you can get a bike for. And I would say the next pro is the amount of bikes available. You literally can choose from any bike that's in your budget. If you want a better bike and you don't have the budget, well, you can look for an older year. Yeah, so those are the two main pros. The third pro of buying a used motorcycle, depending on how you look at it and depending on who owned it before, is you get a maintenance schedule. The guy before you would have broken in the bike. They would have taken care of all of that. Depending on the bike, they might have put on new tires. They might have done their own upgrades. You can choose from a lot more different options when you are in the market for a used motorcycle, regardless of your budget. And now when it comes to the cons of buying a used motorcycle, I guess the same can be said about the person who had it before you. You can't really tell how they took care of it or if it was properly maintained, especially if they didn't take any notes or if they don't have any receipts for things like oil changes or scheduled maintenance. Some people aren't going to take care of the bike as well as you would have, and on the flip side of that, other people are going to take care of the bike a lot more than you would have. So it's a pro and a con depending on how you look at it. That's one of the main cons. You don't know how the bike was treated. You're not able to treat the bike from when it's brand new the way you want it to be treated. You don't know how it was maintained. And I know a few guys would say that when you're looking for a bike, to buy a used motorcycle for local rides and then buy a new motorcycle for longer rides like touring or commuting, because something could happen with a used bike and leave you stranded, or something could happen when you're out on the road and you're stuck trying to get the bike towed or something. That would have to be due with, I think, your due diligence when you're going to look at the used motorcycle. I'll make a video about that in the future, things to look for when you're going to check out a used motorcycle, if you're buying it off someone from, say, Kijiji or Craigslist or something like that. Or if you're buying it from the dealership, then you're all set, but you will pay a premium buying a used motorcycle at the dealership. But overall, that is probably the main con, is you don't know how the bike was treated. You don't know how the bike was maintained unless you're able to find somebody that's on the bike with receipts, with records of everything they did. And now, speaking of new bikes, there are some definite pros of buying a new bike. And like I said, like I was just talking about, one of the main pros is you are able to maintain the bike how you want it. You can break it in how you want it. You can do any of the upgrades that you want right off the bat, and you are solely responsible for how the bike was maintained and kept. So you are going to know the entire history of a new motorcycle. If you buy one, you don't have to worry about something happening when you're out on a longer ride. You're going to be able to record everything you do, all the upgrades, all the maintenance. You can keep receipts if that's what you're into. And you're just able to stay on top of that aspect of owning the bike. And now another pro to buying a new bike is, well, you get a new bike. So every year, most manufacturers will upgrade their older models. Some of the upgrades aren't as big as the previous year, but others are huge depending on the bike you're getting. And if you're buying a new bike, you'll be able to enjoy any of these new upgrades, and you're also able to take advantage of the newer models. So if you're buying a used bike, you're kind of stuck with like what's available on the used market, generally older bikes. But if you're buying a new bike, you can buy brand new models, you can buy brand new generations of bikes. Basically anything that has just come out or recently come out is available for you. And when it comes to cost, I would say this is kind of a pro and a con, so I will use this to segue into the cons. One of the pros of buying a new bike is if you don't have the money up front for a used bike, but you have good credit, you can always finance a new motorcycle. They're not that expensive. Monthly payments or even bi-weekly payments on a new motorcycle aren't going to be that expensive unless you buy something crazy like a Harley or even say a brand new Africa Twin. You're going to have a little bit of a higher monthly payment compared to if you bought, say, like a smaller sport bike or something like I've got, an adventure bike. But it is a bit more reasonable compared to a car, and maybe you can afford the $200 a month, but you can't afford, say, the $5,000 or $6,000 up front. That would make it a good choice for you to buy to get a new motorcycle, especially if you have good credit. And with financing options available now, you're not going to be paying a lot for a finance cost. So for some people, it's kind of like, why not just buy the new one and get it done with? And so another pro of buying a new motorcycle is you just go to the dealership and they take care of everything for you. So there's nothing you have to worry about when you're buying a new motorcycle. You just go, they take care of the paperwork, they take care of the plates, they take care of everything for you, all the taxes and everything like that. That's all done for you at the dealership. You basically walk in with the money, sign some papers, obviously pick out your bike, but you're driving out with a bike where it's ready to ride. You don't have to go look at bikes. You don't have to go to the licensing office and pay your taxes and get all the paperwork, transfer the ownership. You don't have to do any of that. So for some people, if time is limited, that's a good option. And now the cons of buying a new bike. One of the cons is the price. You're paying a premium to own a new motorcycle. It's going to be a significantly higher cost compared to if you bought a used motorcycle. I would say anywhere from, say, 10 to 30%. Even a year of a used motorcycle would make a difference when it comes to cost. And not only are you going to be paying more up front, you have to pay the full tax price, and your insurance is also going to be higher for a new bike compared to a used bike. And I would hate to be an owner of a brand new bike and you drop it in the driveway by accident. Something happens to the bike, and it's going to be a lot more expensive to repair and then maintain. a brand new bike right off the bat than it would be for a used, already ridden motorcycle. As for another con is you're gonna want to be so careful with a new bike. You're probably not gonna ride it. You're probably not gonna want to ride it in the winter. You're gonna be so nervous about dropping it or about leaving it somewhere out of sight if you're shopping or at work. There's a little bit more added stress when you're the owner of a brand new motorcycle. But it's not the worst thing in the world. And yeah, just to read, that kind of gives you guys my idea of the new versus used motorcycle ownership train of thought. And what would I recommend overall? Guys, ultimately it depends on your current, your financial position, your responsibility, and your stage in motorcycle riding. For a brand new rider, I personally would not recommend buying a new motorcycle because, let's face it, guys, you're gonna drop it. You're gonna drop the bike. You're gonna, want to screw around with it, and something's gonna happen. You might slide off the road. Your buddy might crash into you. You might just drop it in the driveway. Just trying to leave to go for a ride. It's hard to predict what's gonna happen, especially as a new rider. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and you don't want these things to go wrong with a bike that's $10,000, $15,000, especially ones that you are making payments on. So for new riders, I definitely recommend looking into used motorcycles. I think they are better value, and they're a better choice when you're just getting into this lifestyle. And the money you save from buying a used bike, you can use for insurance, you can use for maintenance, you can use for upgrades. So there's the cost benefit aspect of it as well. And you've got a wider selection of motorcycles to choose from in the used marketplace, depending on where you're from. And that's what I recommend for new riders. Now, there is a place to buy a new bike. If you are big into sport bikes, and you want a leader bike or a 600 plus cc sport bike that you want to take care of, whether you want to take it to the track or just cruising around on the streets. For sport bikes, those higher revving bikes, I don't think it's a bad idea to buy a new sport bike, especially if you're a more advanced rider. If you have the money, there's nothing inherently wrong with buying a new sport bike or any bike, depending on what you're looking for. If you have the money, if you aren't too worried about dropping it, if you know what you're doing out on the road, then get a new bike. There's obviously some incredible new bikes out there. Ultimately, guys, it comes down to your preference and whether or not you have the money. If you have the money to buy a new bike and you drop it, that happens, right? If you don't have the money and you're worried about it, buy a used bike and save up for the new bike. You can always resell your bike, buy a new one in the future. Nothing wrong with that. And that's basically what I wanted to cover today. Hopefully I helped you guys out in the new versus used bike argument. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below, so don't hesitate to leave any comments. And thanks for watching. Hit that thumbs up if you like this video. Click on subscribe to stay updated with future videos. And we will catch you guys in the next video.